Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Front page. Which text? Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, chapter 1, text 28. Urastalam Jyoti Anikam Asya Viva Maha Vadanam Vai Janaha Asya Tapaha Varatim Viduhu Adi Pungsaha Satyam Tu Shirshani Sahasra Shirshaha Urastalam Jyotirnikamasya Kiva Maharvaganam Vajanosya Tapovaratim Vijurari Pungsa Satyam Tu Shirshani Sahasra Shirshaha Urastalam Jyotirnikamasya Griva Maharvadanam Vajanosya Tapovaratim Vidurari Pungsa Satyam Trishirshani Sahasra Shirshaha Urastalam Jyotirnikamasya Griva Maharvadanam Vajanosya Tapovaratim Vidurari Pungsa Satyam Trishirshani Sahasra Shirsha Shirshnaha
Urashtalang Jyotirani Griva Maharvadanang Vajanosya Tapovarating Viduradi Pungsa Satyang Tushirshani Sahasra Shirshnaha
Urastalam Jyotirnikamasya Griva Maharvadanam Vajanosya Tapovaratim Vidur Adipumsa Satyam Tushir Shani Sahasra Shirshnaha Urastalang Jyotirnikamasya Griva Maharvadanam Vajanosya Tapovaratim Viduradi Satang tu Shirshani Sahasra Shirshnaha Urastalam Jyotirani Kamasya Griva Maharvadanam Vajanusha Tapovaratim Viduradi Pungsa Satyam tu Shirshani Sahasra Shirshnaha Urastalam Jyotiranikamashya Griva Maharvadanam Vajanosya Tapo Viratim Viduradi Pumsa Satyam tu Shri Shani Sahasra Shirshaha
Rahastalam Jyotir Anika Ashra Griva Manir Vandanam Bhavanoshra Tapo Viratam Vidur Api Pusa Satvayamstu Sarvani Samashrashana
Urastalam Jyotiranikamashya Griva Maharvadanam Vajanosya Tapovaratim Viduradi Pungsa Satyam tu Shirshani Sahasra Shirshnaha
Sashishna Urastalam Jyotiranikamashya Griva Maharvadanam Vajanosya Tapovaratim Viduradi Pungsa Satyam tu Shirshani Sahasra Shirshna
Word meanings. Uraha, high. Stalam, place, the chest. Jyoti Anikam, the luminary planets. Asya, a little more. Of him. Viva, the neck. Maha, the planetary system above the luminaries. Padanam, mouth. Vai, exactly. Janaha, the planetary system above Mahar. Asya, of him. Tapaha, planetary system above the genus. Varatim, forehead. Viduhu is known. Adi, the original. Pungsaha, personality. Satyam, the topmost planetary system. Two, but. Shirshani, the head. Sahasra, 1,000. Shirshnaha, one with heads. Translation. Is the luminary planetary system
the Satyaloka planetary system, where the chief directors of the modes of material nature reside, namely Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva. This Vishnu is known as the Shirodakashayi Vishnu, and he acts as the supersoul in every living being. There are innumerable universes floating on the causal ocean, and in each of them, the representation of the Virat form of the Lord is there, along with the innumerable suns, moons, heavenly demigods, Brahmas, Vishnus, and Shivas, all of them situated in one part of the inconceivable potency of Lord Krishna, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, text 42.
So this is the material world being described. Material universe. This is one universe we live in. There are millions of universes. And there's a big arrangement. They're all designed similar, the same. Some are larger, some are smaller. But the material world is bhutva praliyate. It's manifested and annihilated again and again. This is the plan of the Lord. These seasons that we see, summer, winter, fall, etc., they're coming from the Lord's arrangement. This is part of his plan. Because the material world, although it's not the spiritual world, there's another world. Parastasmat bhavunya vyakta vyaktat sanatana. An eternal place. That's the home of the living entities. That's where we all belong. To be with Krishna, those planet, Krishna resides there. And everything is very blissful there, very beautiful, harmonious. People live in harmony there without quarreling, without exploiting one another, without fearing, without all the unattractive things that we have in this material world. So someone may ask, well, why are we living here then? Why don't we go there? We don't go there because we're not allowed to go there right now. Why? Just the same reason why the criminals are not allowed to live outside the prisons. They couldn't behave themselves properly in a social environment, so they were taken into the prison. And they still get to live, they have their little community, but it's not the same as living outside. Their freedoms are restricted. And there's bound to be lots of quarreling in there because people that come to the prison are quarrelsome, more. We're all quarrelsome, but those that are more quarrelsome, they're put in the prison. So this material world is the prison house. And it's still part of the manifestation of the Lord. It's still the kingdom of God. It's not separate. So he arranges things to go on here. And there's something nice about also, because this material world is a reflection of the spiritual world, inverted reflection. A reflection of the real thing gives some idea of what the real thing is like. It's like a reflection of a tree on the water on a lake. The reflection looks very similar to the tree. You can see the colors of the tree and the leaves and the branches, but you don't feel it, and you don't taste it, and you don't taste the fruits, and you're missing a lot of the reality of it. So similarly, the material world is a reflection of the wonderful place, the spiritual world where Krishna lives. But we're trying to enjoy this wonderful place without Krishna. The idea of enjoying without Krishna is actually something that is not possible, because God is the source of everything. He's the substance of everything. Nothing can exist without him. There's theories that postulate that everything comes from nothing, like the universe, which is not scientific, but still it's presented by the scientists. And that there's no need for a controller or a brain or a person above the universe, the cosmic manifestation. It just all happens accidentally. So this is not very logical. It doesn't make any sense. There's no proof. Still, this is what we believe. But by believing this, we exclude ourselves from the possibility of going to the spiritual world. We're doomed to remain in the material world with these type of ridiculous thoughts, ridiculous theories. In reality, our real business here in the world is not to try to enjoy apart from God, but is to try to assist God. He doesn't need any assistance in one sense. He's completely Swarat, independent, and he's all-powerful, all-knowing, all-cognizant. He is everything in one sense, but then again, he's outside of everything. And he lives in his own abode called Goloka Vrindavan. That's the highest abode. This description here doesn't include the spiritual world. This is just the material world, where you may have heard that we're constructing a Temple of Vedic Planetarium in our world headquarters in Mayapur in India. It will be the largest planetarium in the world, and perhaps the largest temple in the world. And it will be supposed to show how the material universe is designed, is set up and working. And then the spiritual world also will be depicted above that. That's where we belong. And our business here should be to how to return to that place. We shouldn't be content to stay here, because we can't stay here in a peaceful way. Like in the spiritual world, everyone just stays there. There's no death. There's no old age. There's no disease. There's no birth. Everyone lives there eternally, happily. But here, there is disease, there is old age, there is death, and birth again. Birth is the beginning of the unpleasant experiences. Staying in the womb for so many months and undergoing tribulations of being cramped up with the back bent and being bitten by different types of living entities that are in the stomach of the mother. There are living entities there. Now, there's one living entity is the main controller of the body, but there's many other living entities who live in the body at the cost of the body itself. And then finally being born, and it's a traumatic experience, the living entities in pain, crying. They say they don't come out smiling. So has anyone seen they don't come out smiling? It's crying, it's painful. And then there's more painful things later on. And finally, the finale, crescendo, everything comes to old age and disease and death. That's what we have to look forward to in this material world. But don't feel bad. After that, you can go through it again in another of the 8,400,000 species of life. Maybe as a worm, maybe as a caterpillar, a dog, a tree, or just like a bird. You can have your choice. All these living entities are different vehicles that are arranged for the passage of the living entity through the material world. And he tries to enjoy each one to its maximum. He seems to know how to work it already by intuition. That intuition is super soul. Super soul in the heart of every living entity gives guidance to the living entity, the individual soul, that here's how you work this body. It works like this. Push these buttons. If you want to do this, you do this. So he knows all these things. And he tries his best to exploit. If he has a bird body and has a beak that goes down like that, that means he can eat other birds too. If it has a hook on it, like a hawk or eagle, they can eat other birds, they can rip them. And if they don't have that type of beak, a different type of beak, then they can't eat animals, but they can eat grains and other small things. Anyway, this is the material world being described here. It says the Jyotir planets, luminaries, sun and the moon, they're situated around the middle section. This is speaking up and down. The universe, the material universe is called Brahmanda. Anda means egg, and it's a round egg, completely round. And Brahma is the designer, therefore it's called Brahmanda. He's situated at the top on Satyaloka, as described here, top planets. But the sun and moon are around the middle planets. So then below that is half the universe is filled with water called the Garbhodak Ocean. And the top half is filled with air, or shall we say space, and the different planets are revolving. Some are going around in, like the sun and the moon, they move, and some don't move, like the earth. We learn from the Vedic literature that the earth is stationary, it's not moving. So someone may say, well, if it's not moving, how come we're taught that it's moving? That's an error. The reasoning is that either the sun is moving and the earth is stationary, or the sun is stationary and the earth is moving. So we've come up with that idea that the sun is more or less stationary and the earth is moving. But actually it's the other way around. And from mathematics, even Einstein admitted you can't tell just by the two movements. You can't tell which one's moving and which one isn't moving. But the Vedas say that the earth is situated in a large circular body that's contiguous, but it's separated by 7 oceans, very large oceans. And there describe what's in them. There's salt water and sweet water and milk and yogurt and different types of substances. So these are described here in the Vedas. Now, one may say, this sounds fantastic. How can it possibly be? How have we missed it? Well, because we're limited. Our vision, we can't see very far. Our eyes are not meant to be able to see such long distances of these bodies and to perceive what's going on. We can't go to the other planets, although we're trying to go to the other planets through mechanic means. It's not possible. Because and even if we could go, we wouldn't feel comfortable there because our body type is different. Just like if we go to the bottom of the ocean, we can't live there peacefully because we can't breathe. And the other things, our body's not meant to there. And if we go to the sun in this body, it'll be burned up. So we're restricted, just like in prison. They're restricted. They don't have the freedoms that the free citizens have to move around. There are living entities, like in the Siddha Loka planet. They can go from planet to planet, fly. They have the flying capability without even using any vehicles. And this is all the material world. There's higher beings in the material world that have all kinds of mystic powers. They can, as we say, move from planet to planet. They can acquire things. They can make themselves smaller than the smallest. They can reduce their size. There are some people who practice different types of yoga exercises, pranayama, etc. Their goal is to get mystic powers where they can achieve wonderful things. But these are available with a lot of effort, but they don't satisfy the soul completely. The soul can't be satisfied by anything material because the soul, we're all souls, we can only be satisfied with spiritual things. And the supreme spiritual thing is Krishna. Krishna is the personality of Godhead, the supreme soul. Nityo Nityanam, Chaitanas Chaitananam, Eko Bahunam Yoga Didati Kama. All the living entities are eternal like God, but they're forced to stay in material bodies one after another. As long as they're inimical and they're not cooperative with God. Then if they rectify themselves and become good servants of God, then they can live with him in the spiritual world and enjoy unlimited pleasure, not just with him, but all of his associates. And the associates of God are also very wonderful to be with, wonderful qualities like God. And that's our real home. And that's our real business here, is to find out how to return to that supreme abode. And it's possible to do even in one lifetime. If one practices bhakti yoga, this Krishna consciousness, very adamantly, then he can obtain the highest goal in one lifetime by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. this verse was read, I think, the other day, but anyway, someone is going to take over now.
So we'll have some questions and discuss a little bit. Jaikesha?
Is it worth our time and energy to discuss the Vedic cosmology with scientists who think otherwise, to share the ideas from the Srimad Bhagavatam? Or are these just topics that we should discuss with devotees?
So there's one devotee, his name is I think it's Druta Karma Prabhu, and he goes and he explains what the Vedas say about the universe to persons who are like scholars and businessmen and all those types of things. And I think it was something that KB has brought up a few times, that when he goes into such discussions, he makes a blanket statement that, like, as a follower of the Vedas, I accept this as reality. So we accept this as reality, and I'll just present you what's there. So then persons usually they say, okay, well, this is his kind of right to believe it. From our perspective, we just make it clear. It's not necessarily that I'll be trying to convince you, rather I'll just present it to you. And I've already decided that that's my version. That's the reality that I prescribe to. And all the other persons, they have their own realities, that they're prescribing to. Because they think it's like that. They think it's, they may have an idea that what we talk about from the ancient scripture is just some mythology or something. So then if we just say the first thing is that I'm one of those people that I accept this as reality, and I'll just explain to you what's there. So he does this as a service to Srila Prabhupada, and he may be able to explain better why he does that or what's the importance of that. But what's interesting is that many people who are a little scientifically minded, they appreciate that type of presentation. And if the details and the figures from the Vedas intrigue their mind, which certainly they are very intriguing, then they may spend time to go deeper. And when they go deeper, Krishna's grabbing their mind. And he says, you want to know more? Well, these people know. So then I have to go and hang out with them. And they all are devotees of Krishna. So then they give me food. Then that food has been offered to Krishna. So little by little, somebody may become a devotee. Some other things, Prabhus? Something to churn.
Right, bro. I was just wondering how time, because the spiritual world is eternal and it's not affected by material time, but still there's like activity, happening and movement, motion. And I was just wondering how that is the case.
Well, as far as I've studied, our acharyas or Prabhupada hasn't presented so much about that for the general student. More or less, we will have to go there to experience what time is like in the spiritual world. And to get there, it is quite a task. So that's one of those details which is a little bit kind of confidential. It may be a little bit distracting for us where we're at. I'm still dealing with bad habits that I've accumulated from material births. So then if I figure out how to fix that, then I can go on to more esoteric top concepts. One time I heard a discussion, though, that in the spiritual world, for the sake of pastimes, time exists. Like there's some activity called a lila, where Krishna and his devotees interact with each other in a certain setting and exchange emotions, and basically that's how they have fun. That's how they enjoy. And the devotees in Krishna are fully free from the binds of time, but they voluntarily subject themselves to experience the pastimes. And one time I heard an analogy that they can switch the channel whenever they want. So they can experience whatever pastimes eternally. Now, as like I was saying, the details aren't, really understandable by us, but we can understand that the devotees, they're not bound by one particular body. They can actually have many forms simultaneously. So,
Can I comment on that? So from my understanding, Krishna has, he's going through different things every day, just like we're offering arti at certain times in the day. So with our artis, we're trying to mimic what's actually happening in the spiritual world. The Ashtakya Lila, where Krishna is waking up, he's taking prasadam. And so there's different times of the day for different activities of Krishna. And we can attempt to